The ship floated in the darkness like a forgotten dream. It had been there for so long that the nearby planet had died, its oceans had dried up, and its mountains had turned to dust. Yet the ship remained, silent and waiting. Park pressed her face against the observation window of the research vessel and stared at the ancient craft. It was beautiful in a strange way. The metal was black but seemed to swallow light instead of reflecting it. Strange symbols covered every surface, glowing faintly with a soft blue color. 2 billion years old, said the lead archaeologist. He stood behind, his 4 arms folded across his chest. His species was tall and thin, with gray skin and large eyes perfect for studying old things. At minimum, perhaps older. This predates every known civilization in the galaxy. That is impossible, said from the pilot's seat. The Sylvan was small and green, with wet skin like a frog. His large eyes blinked twice. Nothing survives that long, nothing. But there it was, the impossible ship floating in the void. She studied alien languages and tried to understand how different species communicated. She was also the only human on the research team, and she knew exactly why she was there. Coalition regulations required human representation on all major expeditions. It was a political rule, nothing more. The other species tolerated humans but did not respect them much. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. They were still the newcomers. We have tried everything, continued. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers, electromagnetic pulses, quantum entanglement signals. The ship does not respond to anything. Walked over from the engineering station. He was the other human on board, an engineer who spoke little but noticed everything. The power readings are strange, he said quietly. The ship has energy, a lot of it, but it is not doing anything with it. It is sleeping, said. Ships do not sleep, replied. This one does. Turned away from the window. Can we board it? Made a gesture with 2 of his hands that meant uncertainty. We found an opening that might be an airlock. The atmosphere inside is breathable, but the ship has not invited us in. Has anyone tried just walking in? Asked. The stared at her with his large eyes. That would be disrespectful to the vessel and whatever civilization created it. That civilization has been dead for 2 billion years, said. I do not think they will mind. There was a long silence, then made another gesture, this one meaning reluctant agreement. The boarding team consisted of and 2 assistants. They wore environmental suits even though the ship's interior was breathable. It was a safety measure. No one knew what they would find inside. The airlock opened easily, as if it had been waiting for visitors. Inside, the corridors were wide and tall, built for beings larger than any species had ever seen. The walls were covered with the same strange symbols, and they glowed brighter as the team moved deeper into the ship. Remarkable, whispered. The preservation is perfect. No decay, no damage. It is as if the ship was built yesterday. Ran his scanner over a wall panel. The technology is beyond anything I understand. I cannot even tell what the components are made of. Walked ahead of the group, drawn by something she could not explain. The symbols on the walls seemed familiar somehow, though she knew that was impossible. She had studied hundreds of alien languages, and none of them looked like this. They reached a central chamber. It was enormous, with a high ceiling that disappeared into darkness. In the middle of the room stood a pedestal, and above it floated a sphere of pale light. Approached the sphere carefully. This must be the control center, or perhaps a communication device. He raised his 4 arms and began making the mathematical gestures that used for first contact situations. The sphere did not respond. The 2 assistants tried next, using different methods. They projected light patterns. They played sounds at different frequencies. They even tried touching the sphere, but their hands passed through it like smoke. It is useless, said finally. The ship will not speak to us. Stood at the back of the chamber, feeling useless. This was always how it went. The other species did the important work while she watched. She was just here to satisfy a regulation. She sighed in frustration. "This is pointless," she muttered under her breath. The sphere pulsed. Everyone froze. "What did you do?" demanded, turning to look at. "Nothing. I just said that this is pointless." The sphere pulsed again, brighter this time. Then the walls began to glow. The symbols that covered every surface started to move, flowing like water, rearranging themselves into new patterns. A deep hum filled the chamber, rising from somewhere far below. "The ship is waking up," said, his voice tense. Backed away from the sphere. But why? What activated it? The sphere expanded, filling the center of the chamber with pale light. Then, from within the light, a voice emerged. It was strange and ancient, crackling like a fire that had burned for eons. But the words it spoke were clear. Voice pattern acceptable. His heart stopped. The voice was speaking her language, not any alien tongue. It was speaking human standard. "Welcome home," the voice said. "We have waited so long for you." Turned to stare at. His large eyes were wide with shock. "How is this possible? Your species is only 200,000 years old. This ship is 2 billion years old. How does it know your language?" Could not answer. She could barely breathe. She stared at the glowing sphere, at the ancient symbols flowing across the walls, at the impossible ship that had been sleeping in the darkness for longer than she could imagine. And it had woken up for her. "Who are you?" she whispered. The sphere pulsed warmly, like a heartbeat. "We are the Keeper," the voice answered. "And you are the children we have been waiting for. You have finally come home." The chamber fell silent except for the deep hum of the awakening ship. 2 billion years of sleep, ended by a single human voice. Did not understand what was happening. She did not understand how this was possible. But she knew, with absolute certainty, that the galaxy would never be the same again. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every major civilization knew about the ancient ship. Within days, fleets from a dozen species were traveling toward the dead planet. Sat in the central chamber of the ancient vessel, surrounded by technology that should not exist. The Keeper's sphere floated above the pedestal, pulsing with soft light whenever she spoke. It had not responded to anyone else since awakening. Not to the dozens of alien scientists who had boarded the ship in the past week. Only to her, only to human voices. "This makes no sense," said for the 100th time. He paced back and forth with his 4 arms waving in agitation. "Human civilization is a baby compared to the rest of the galaxy. Your species was living in caves while mine was building starships. How can this ancient vessel respond only to you?" "I do not know," said honestly. "I keep asking the Keeper, but its answers are difficult to understand." She turned to face the glowing sphere. "Keeper, can you explain again? Why do you respond to human voices and not to others?" The sphere brightened and the ancient voice filled the chamber. "The pattern matches. The frequency is correct. The resonance is true. You carry the song of the Wanderers." "What are the Wanderers?" asked. "The first ones, the Seeders, the parents of all life." "Stop packing. Seeders. Are you saying that someone created life in this galaxy?" The Keeper did not respond. "It only answers humans," reminded him quietly. "Ask the question again. Keeper, did someone create life in this galaxy?" "Yes," the Keeper answered. "The Wanderers traveled the void when the stars were young. They planted the seeds of life on countless worlds. They gave their essence to the universe so that children might grow." The chamber fell silent. This was an enormous claim. Every species in the galaxy had their own theories about how life began. None of those theories included ancient beings planting life like farmers planting crops. "And humans," asked, "what are we to the Wanderers?" The sphere pulsed warmly. "You are the closest echo. Your bodies, your voices, your patterns of thought, they match the Wanderers most closely. You are their most direct descendants. Made a sound of disbelief. Impossible. Humans evolved on Earth. We have fossil records. We have genetic histories. Humans were not placed there by ancient beings. Again, the keeper did not respond. He cannot hear you, said gently. The archaeologist looked frustrated, but he nodded. Ask it about the evidence. Ask it how we can prove this claim. Before could speak, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed along the corridors outside the chamber. What is happening? His voice crackled over the communication system. We have a problem. A military fleet just arrived. Warships, 12 of them. Felt her stomach tighten. They were in species known for their rigid military culture. They believed strongly in hierarchy and order, and they did not like surprises. Can you contact them? She asked. They are contacting us, replied. Their commander wants to board the ancient ship immediately. He is not asking permission. Within the hour, Admiral stood in the central chamber. He was tall with a hard shell of dark green and compound eyes that reflected the keeper's light. 6 legs carried him forward with mechanical precision, and his mandibles clicked as he spoke. This vessel is now under protection, he announced. All non-essential personnel will leave immediately. The humans will be escorted back to their home system. On what authority? Demanded. On the authority of galactic security. This ship contains technology beyond anything we have ever seen. It cannot be left in the hands of primitives. Felt her face grow hot. Primitives. Admiral turned his compound eyes toward her. Your species joined the galactic community 50 years ago. You have contributed nothing of significance. You are children playing with tools you do not understand. This ship requires proper study by proper scientists. The ship will not respond to your scientists, said, keeping her voice calm even though anger burned inside her. It only responds to humans. Then we will find a way to change that. The Admiral gestured, and a team of technicians moved toward the keeper's sphere. They carried scanning equipment and tools that did not recognize. Keeper said quickly, these people want to study you. They mean no harm. Unauthorized access detected, the keeper replied. Defense protocols activating. The temperature in the chamber dropped suddenly. The symbols on the walls began glowing bright red instead of blue. A deep vibration shook the floor. The technician stopped moving. Admiral's mandibles clicked rapidly in alarm. What is happening? He demanded. The ship is defending itself, said. You should leave now. I do not take orders from humans. The vibration grew stronger. Panels in the walls began sliding open, revealing devices that pulsed with threatening energy. They looked like weapons. Keeper, stop, shouted, do not hurt them. The vibration paused. The weapons remained visible but did not fire. You request mercy for those who threaten you, the keeper asked. Yes, they are not enemies, they are just afraid. There was a long pause. Then slowly the weapons retracted. The walls returned to their soft blue glow. The temperature rose back to normal. Admiral stared at with his compound eyes. She could not read his expression, but she thought she saw something like surprise. The ship listens to you, he said. It obeys you. It does not obey me, it respects me. There is a difference. The Admiral was silent for a moment. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. This is not over, he said. The Coalition will hear about this. Humanity cannot be trusted with such power. After the left approached, his 4 arms hung at his sides and his large eyes looked troubled. You saved their lives, he said. They threatened you, called you primitive, tried to take the ship from you, and you saved them. Was I supposed to let them die? Many would have. Shook her head. Then maybe that is why the Wanderers chose humans, not because we are special, but because we still believe in being kind, even when others are not. The keeper's sphere pulsed brightly at her words. Yes, the ancient voice said, that is exactly why. walked over and stood beside. "The Keeper has been showing me something," he said quietly. "A star map. There are coordinates hidden in the ship's memory. They point to a place far beyond explored space." "What place?" asked. "I believe it is the Wanderer's home," said. "Their original world. And the Keeper says that only a human crew can unlock the navigation system to get there." Looked at the glowing sphere, at the ancient symbols flowing across the walls, at the impossible ship that had chosen humanity from all the species in the galaxy. "Then I guess we know where we need to go," she said. The Keeper pulsed warmly in response, and for a moment could have sworn it sounded like approval. The Coalition Council chamber was the largest room had ever seen. It was built to hold representatives from over 100 species, each with their own section designed for their specific needs. Some areas were filled with water for aquatic species. Others were kept extremely cold or extremely hot. Platforms floated at different heights for beings who could not stand on the ground. Felt very small as she walked to the central speaking platform. Walked beside her, his presence a comfort in the overwhelming space. Behind them came and who had insisted on supporting their human colleagues. Lee, the Human Coalition representative, met them at the platform. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been fighting for humanity's place in the galaxy for 30 years. "This will not be easy," warned them quietly. "Admiral has been speaking to the other military powers. Half the council thinks we should turn the ship over to a joint committee. The other half thinks we should destroy it entirely." "Destroy it?" was shocked. "It is the greatest discovery in galactic history." "That is exactly why they want it gone. Many species do not like the idea that humans might be special. It threatens their view of the universe." The council session began with Admiral presenting his case. He stood on a raised platform, his green shell gleaming under the chamber's lights. "The humans have stumbled onto something they cannot understand or control," he declared. "This ancient vessel contains weapons that could destroy entire fleets. It has defensive systems that our best technology cannot match, and it responds only to human commands." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Could see representatives from dozens of species turning to look at her. "This is dangerous," Admiral continued. "The humans are the youngest species in the coalition. They have no experience with such power. They have already shown that they cannot be trusted. The ship nearly attacked my officers simply because we tried to study it." "The ship defended itself because your officers threatened it," said, stepping forward without permission to speak. Admiral's compound eyes fixed on her. "You see, they are impulsive, emotional. They do not respect our traditions or our procedures." "I respect anyone who earns respect," replied. "Respect is not automatically given because someone has been in the galaxy longer." More murmurs. Some sounded approving, others did not. Counselor spoke next. There was a strange being, a creature from a gas giant who existed as a swirling cloud of gases contained in a special chamber. A translation device turned chemical signals into spoken words. "I have reviewed the data from the ancient ship," Counselor said. "The claims are extraordinary. The Keeper speaks of beings called the Wanderers who seeded life across the galaxy billions of years ago. It says that humans carry the Wanderers' pattern most closely. If this is true, it changes everything we thought we knew about the origin of life." "If it is true," Admiral interrupted, "we have only the ship's word. This could be a trick, a deception. Perhaps the ship was built by an enemy species to give humans false confidence." "An enemy species from 2 billion years ago," spoke up Admiral with respect. "That theory makes no sense. No one could plan a deception over such a time scale." The debate continued for hours. Species argued back and forth. Some supported humanity. Many did not. The coalition was divided in a way that had never seen before. Finally, was given permission to speak. She walked to the center of the platform and stood with quiet dignity. "My colleagues," she began, "I understand your fear. The discovery of this ship challenges many beliefs. It suggests that humans may have a connection to the universe's oldest beings. This is difficult to accept, especially for species who have been in space for thousands of years while we have been here for only 50. She paused, looking around the chamber. "But I ask you to consider something. The Keeper chose to respond to humans not because of our technology or our power. We have very little of either compared to most of you. The Keeper chose us because of something else, something we carry inside us that matches the Wanderers." "And what is that?" Admiral asked. "What makes humans so special?" "I do not know yet," admitted, "but I think we need to find out. The Keeper has revealed coordinates to the Wanderers. Only a human crew can unlock the navigation system to reach it. I propose that we send an expedition to discover the truth." "Under whose authority?" Admiral demanded. "Under the authority of the Coalition. A joint expedition with representatives from multiple species, but with a human crew commanding the ship, because that is the only way it will function." More debate followed, but eventually, after many arguments and many compromises, the Council reached a decision. An expedition would be sent to the Wanderers. The crew would include humans and Sylvan members. Military observers from the would accompany them, but they would not command. Would lead the mission. After the council session ended, she found a quiet observation deck and stood looking at the stars. So many of them. So many worlds. Had the Wanderers really visited them all? Had they really planted the seeds of life throughout the galaxy? Found her there. He stood beside her in comfortable silence for a while before speaking. "Are you ready for this?" he asked. "No," admitted. "I am a linguist. I study languages. I'm not qualified to lead an expedition that might change the history of the galaxy." "The Keeper chose you," said. "Maybe being qualified is not what matters. Maybe something else matters more." "What?" Thought for a moment. "When the threatened the ship, you asked for mercy. You protected beings who had insulted you. The Keeper said that was exactly why the Wanderers chose humans. Maybe that is your qualification." Looked at him, compassion. Compassion, kindness, the ability to care about others even when they do not care about you, smiled slightly. These are not weaknesses, they are strengths that many species have forgotten. She turned back to the stars. Somewhere out there, beyond the edges of explored space, the Wanderers waited. It had been waiting for billions of years, waiting for children who carried kindness in their hearts. "I'm still scared," she said. "Good," replied. "That means you understand how important this is. Only fools feel no fear before great journeys." Took a deep breath. The universe was larger and stranger than she had ever imagined. But she was not alone. She had friends who believed in her. She had a ship that trusted her. And she had something that the Wanderers had valued enough to encode into the fabric of life itself. "All right," she said finally. "Let us go find out where we came from." The stars shone back at her, ancient and patient, keeping their secrets for just a little while longer. The ancient ship moved through space like nothing had ever experienced. There was no sense of speed, no vibration, no indication of travel at all. One moment they were near the Coalition's central systems, and the next moment they were somewhere else entirely, a region of space so far from home that the familiar constellations had vanished. "Gateway transit complete," the Keeper announced. "Distance traveled 40,000 light-years. Time elapsed 3 seconds." The human pilot recruited for the expedition laughed in amazement. 3 seconds. It would take our fastest ships 200 years to cover that distance. Stood in the central chamber, watching the navigation display that floated above the pedestal. A path of glowing dots stretched across the darkness, leading toward the edge of the galaxy. They had passed through the first gateway, but many more waited ahead. The crew had settled into their roles over the past weeks of preparation. Handled the piloting, though the ship mostly guided itself. studied the technology, trying to understand systems that were billions of years more advanced than anything humanity had built, documented everything with the careful attention of a true archaeologist, monitored communications and kept spirits high with his endless curiosity. And then there was. The warrior stood in a corner of the chamber, his four arms crossed and his expression hostile. He had been assigned as security for the expedition, but suspected his true purpose was to watch the humans. Many still did not trust humanity's connection to the Wanderers, seemed to share that distrust. Another gateway ahead, the keeper announced. Human authorization required. Spoke the words she had learned to say. Authorization granted, proceed. The ship passed through another gateway, and the stars changed again. They were even farther from home now, in a region where no coalition vessel had ever traveled. There is another ship, said suddenly. He pointed to a display showing their surroundings. 2,000 kilometers away, it looks similar to this one. The keeper responded before could ask. A sister vessel, one of many placed along this route. It sleeps, waiting for the children to pass. Can we wake it? Asked. Only with human voices, only when the children choose. Considered this, how many sister vessels are there? Thousands, tens of thousands spread across the galaxy, an inheritance waiting to be claimed. The weight of those words settled over the chamber. Tens of thousands of ships like this one, each filled with technology beyond imagination. An entire infrastructure built billions of years ago, waiting for humanity to grow up and reach for the stars. Why? Spoke for the first time in hours. His voice was harsh. Why would anyone leave such gifts for beings who did not exist yet? What did the Wanderers want in return? The keeper did not respond. It only answers humans, reminded him. Made a sound of frustration. Then ask it, human. Ask why your species deserves what mine does not. Could hear the bitterness in his voice. She understood it, even if she did not agree with it. They had been building civilizations while humans were still learning to make fire. They had explored the galaxy, created art and science and philosophy, and achieved wonders that humanity could barely comprehend. And now they were being told that humans were somehow more connected to the universe's creators. Keeper said gently, why did the Wanderers choose humans? What makes us different from other species? The sphere pulsed thoughtfully. The Wanderers gave pieces of themselves to all life, different pieces to different children, strength, intelligence, patience, adaptability. All species carry some echo of the Wanderer's essence. But humans carry something more, pressed. Humans carry the voice, the song, the pattern of connection that the Wanderers valued above all else, not because humans are better, but because humans are most similar to what the Wanderers were. And what were they? Beings who cared, beings who reached out to others, beings who built not for themselves but for those who would come after. The keeper paused. The Wanderers knew they were dying. They could not save themselves, so they chose to save everyone else. They gave everything they had so that life would continue. That sacrifice, that choice to care for strangers, that is what makes a species worthy of inheritance. The chamber was silent, even had no response. Days passed as they traveled deeper into unexplored space. The crew settled into routines. Meals were shared in a small common area, where the different species tried to find foods they could all eat together. Noticed that the humans did things the aliens found strange. Hummed while she worked, filling the ship with soft melodies. Always offered to help others before asking for help himself. When was homesick, sat with him and listened to his stories about his home world. Why do you do that? Asked one evening. He had been watching Comfort, his expression unreadable. Do what? Spend time with someone who is sad. You gain nothing from it. Thought about the question. I gain his happiness. When my friends feel better, I feel better too. That makes no logical sense. Maybe not, but it makes emotional sense. Stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned away without another word. The accident happened during the seventh Gateway transit. A power fluctuation surged through the ship systems, and a panel exploded near the engineering station. Was closest to it. The blast threw him across the room, and his shell cracked against the wall. Moved without thinking, he ran to and pulled him away from the sparking panel, shielding though with his own body. More sparks flew. The ship groaned. Then the keeper stabilized the systems, and the danger passed. Lay on the floor, his shell damaged and his breathing unsteady. Knelt beside him, checking for injuries. "Why did you do that?" asked weakly. "You could have been killed." "You were in danger," said simply. "But I have been unkind to you. I have questioned your worth. I have doubted everything your species claims." Smiled slightly. None of that matters when someone is hurt. Stared at him with new eyes. Something changed in his expression. Not friendship, not yet, but something like understanding. "The Wanderers chose well," he said quietly. "I am beginning to see why." They continued through more gateways. More sister ships appeared along the route, sleeping in the darkness. Each one could be awakened by human voices. Each one represented power beyond imagination. Finally, they reached the last gateway. Beyond it lay a solar system that had been hidden from the rest of the galaxy for billions of years. "Arrival at destination," the keeper announced. "The of the Wanderers, the source of all beginnings." Looked at the display. A planet hung in the darkness, blue and green and beautiful. Cities covered its surface, silent and waiting. Towers reached toward the sky. Gardens spread across entire continents. Everything was preserved, frozen in time, waiting for the children to arrive. "It is real," whispered. "The Wanderers were real. This is their home." Guided the ship toward the planet's surface. They passed through the atmosphere and descended toward the largest city. His heart pounded as they landed. The greatest mystery in galactic history waited outside those doors. The truth about where life came from. The truth about what humanity was meant to become. "Are you ready?" asked. Took a deep breath. "No, but let us go anyway." The doors opened, and they stepped out onto a world that had been waiting for them since before time began. As walked through the silent streets, holographic images flickered into existence around her. Tall beings with gentle faces appeared, going about their daily lives as they had billions of years ago. They were not quite human, but they were close. Their eyes held the same curiosity. Their hands moved with the same need to create. Their voices carried the same music of connection. They recorded everything, said in wonder. Their entire civilization preserved in light and energy. The keeper's sphere floated beside the group, guiding them through the city. The Wanderers knew their time was ending. They could not stop the death that was coming for them, so they chose to leave their story behind for those who would inherit what they built. "What killed them?" asked. "Time. The Wanderers lived for millions of years, but nothing lives forever. Their bodies grew tired. Their numbers dwindled. In the end, there were not enough of them left to continue, so they made a choice. They would give everything they had to the universe they loved." They reached a great plaza at the center of the city. A tower stood there, stretching so high that its top disappeared into the clouds. The holographic images were thicker here, showing wanderers gathered in huge crowds, listening to speakers, celebrating something important. "This is where they made the final decision," the keeper explained. "Every wanderer who still lived came here to vote. They decided together that they would seed the galaxy with life. They would encode their essence into genetic patterns and scatter those patterns across a billion worlds. They would build ships and gateways and guardians to wait for the children who would eventually evolve." Watched the holographic wanderers. They were smiling. Even though they knew they were about to give up everything, they looked happy. "They were not sad?" she asked. "They were at peace," the keeper replied. The Wanderers believed that consciousness was the most precious thing in the universe, the ability to think, to feel, to wonder, to love. They could not bear the thought of a universe without minds to appreciate its beauty, so they ensured that minds would exist long after they were gone. The group entered the tower. Inside, a massive chamber held a device that pulsed with soft light. It looked like a heart, beating slowly, eternally. "The heart of inheritance," the keeper said. "This device contains the last gift of the Wanderers, technology that could unite the galaxy, cures for diseases, solutions to problems that have plagued civilizations for, clean energy that never runs out, methods to grow food anywhere. Everything the Wanderers learned in their millions of years of existence, stored here for their children." "All of this is for humanity?" asked. "All of this is for everyone, but it can only be activated by a human voice, making a human choice. The Wanderers did not want their gifts used for conquest or domination. They wanted them shared freely, given out of love rather than used for power." Stared at the heart of inheritance. The weight of the decision pressed down on her. She could activate this device. She could give humanity unimaginable power, but the Wanderers had intended for these gifts to be shared. Before she could decide, an alarm rang through the ship's communication system. "Multiple vessels entering the system," reported from orbit. "They came through our wake trail. It is a fleet, ships from 5 different species. They are armed." Stepped forward, his damaged shell still visible. "The supremacist factions, species who refused to accept that humans could be connected to the Wanderers. They must have followed us." "They are hailing us," said. "They are demanding that we surrender the ship and all technology we have found." Closed her eyes. This was what she had feared. Even here, at the home of beings who had given everything for love, greed, and jealousy had followed them. "How many ships?" she asked. 47, we cannot fight them." Looked at the heart of inheritance. She thought about the Wanderers and the choice they had made. They could have used their technology to conquer the galaxy. They could have made themselves rulers of everything. Instead, they had chosen to give everything away. "Keeper," she said, "if I activate the heart, can I send a message to everyone?" The heart connects to every Wanderer installation in the galaxy. Thousands of stations, tens of thousands of ships, all of them waiting to awaken. A message sent from here would reach every corner of known space. Made her decision. She walked to the heart of inheritance and placed her hand on its surface. The light grew brighter. A warm sensation spread through her body. "What are you doing?" Admiral's voice crackled through the communication system. He was commanding the fleet that had followed them. "Surrender immediately or we will open fire." Ignored him. She thought about everything she had learned, about the Wanderers and their sacrifice, about humanity and their inheritance, about what it meant to be worthy of such gifts. Then she spoke. "My name is Park. I am a human, and I am speaking to everyone in the galaxy." The heart of inheritance blazed with light. Across the universe, dormant stations flickered to life. Ships that had slept for billions of years began to wake. The voice of a single human woman echoed through space, carried by technology older than the stars. "We found the Wanderers. We found their last gift to the universe. Technology that could change everything. Cures, energy, knowledge beyond imagination. All of it is real and all of it could be ours." She paused, feeling the weight of countless minds listening. But the Wanderers did not leave these gifts for one species. They left them for everyone. They gave everything they had because they believed that life was precious. All life, every mind that wonders, every heart that loves, every being that reaches for something greater. Outside the tower, the enemy fleet had stopped advancing. They were listening. "I am activating the heart of inheritance now. I am sharing everything it contains. Every cure, every technology, every piece of knowledge the Wanderers saved. I am not keeping it for humanity. I am giving it to the galaxy freely, the way the Wanderers intended." She pressed her hand harder against the heart. Data began flowing outward, streaming to every station and ship in the network. billions of years of knowledge released in a single moment. This is my choice. This is humanity's choice. We choose to share. We choose to give. We choose to be worthy of what we have inherited. The light faded. The heart of inheritance went quiet, its purpose fulfilled. For a long moment there was silence. Then Admiral's voice came through the communication system. He sounded different now, smaller. The stations around are waking up. They are transmitting everything: medical data, engineering specifications, agricultural techniques. It is all real. It is all free, said. For everyone, that was always the point. The enemy fleet did not fire. They could not. Not after what they had witnessed, not after what they had received. Weeks later stood before the Coalition Council again. But this time the mood was different. Representatives from hundreds of species looked at her with something new in their eyes: respect, gratitude, wonder. Spoke first. The warrior had changed since the journey. His voice was no longer harsh. I doubted the humans, he admitted. I thought they were too young, too weak, too emotional to deserve what the wanderers left behind. I was wrong. He turned to face the council. I watched them during our journey. I saw how they cared for each other, how they cared for strangers. When I was injured, a human risked his life to save mine, even though I had treated him with contempt. When they found power beyond imagination, they gave it away. He looked at. The wanderers did not choose humans because they were the strongest They chose humans because humans know how to love. They know how to sacrifice. They know how to give without expecting anything in return. That is the inheritance the wanderers wanted to pass on. Not technology, not power, compassion. The council voted unanimously. The wanderers' technology would be administered by a council of all species, but humans would be honored as the bridge that made it possible. Not rulers, not masters, bridge builders. After the session, returned to the ancient ship. The keeper's sphere floated in the central chamber, pulsing softly. Your mission is complete, she said. You waited billions of years for this moment. What will you do now? My purpose was to guide the children to their inheritance, the keeper replied. That purpose is fulfilled. So you will shut down. There was a pause. I could, my programming allows for it, but I find that I do not wish to. Why not? The sphere pulsed warmly. Because I have learned something from watching you. The wanderers built me to serve a function, but you have shown me that existence can be more than function. It can be connection, friendship, meaning. Smiled, are you saying you want to stay? If you will have me, not as a guardian or a guide, simply as a companion, a friend. Reached out and touched the sphere gently. It was warm against her fingers. I would like that, she said. Outside the ship, the galaxy continued turning. Species that had been enemies were now working together, sharing the wanderers' gifts. Diseases were being cured. Problems that had seemed unsolvable were finding solutions. The universe was changing. And at the center of it all, a small human woman stood beside an ancient consciousness, looking at the stars. The wanderers gave us their voice, said softly, their song, their inheritance. The keeper pulsed in agreement. What we say with it, continued, that is our own choice. She watched the stars shimmer in the darkness, so many of them, so many worlds, so many stories waiting to be written. The children of the wanderers had finally come home, and they had chosen to share that home with everyone. It was, thought, exactly what the wanderers would have wanted.